Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. And this subject was brought to me by a follower on our page, and his name is Ken. So Ken, this one's for you. We are going to talk about Nightcrawler. So this was brought to my attention by Ken, one of the followers on our page. Thank you so much, Ken. And you wanted me to talk about Nightcrawler. So here we are. And I thought this was a really good, interesting character because we just did one a little while ago on Cyclops. And of course, we've done some other videos since then, but I wanted to make sure that I promised I was going to do this. So I am addressing this right now as we speak. Hopefully the audio is a bit better because I got my mic closer. Okay. So with that being said, Nightcrawler, we all know of the character, but do you really know the character? The character has a lot of layers that Ken has brought to my attention, and I knew that too, and it's kind of played out over all the years that this character has been around. So Nightcrawler made his first appearance in Giant Size X-Men issue number 1 back in May of 1975. This is when the original team got taken by the island of Krakoa, and Charles Xavier, Cyclops was the only member returning from that mission. And they had to go and get a new team of X-Men that Charles seemed to have other mutants that were out there, but he just didn't approach them. And he needed them to go and save the original team members. So he turned around and he recruited Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Thunderbird, Banshee, Sunfire, right? And of course, Cyclops was there to lead the team. I think I got them all covered. I said Storms. Yes. So, and they went from that big giant size issue when Marvel used to do, and DC at the time used to do these giant size issues. And this is how it came about. So this is the first time we see Nightcrawler. So now let's go back a little bit further for half a second. So you got Dave Cockrum, who was the artist who designed Nightcrawler. And he came up with the idea of Nightcrawler way back when he was serving in the military. There was a storm one night. He was out, but he couldn't sleep. So he was just drawing the character. And he drew the character to be a sidekick of another character that he was working on at the time that hasn't got presented to anything in the comic books. But the character was supposed to be a demon that came to Earth, failed in a mission, didn't want to go back to face punishment, so ended up remaining on Earth, and that was supposed to be the story arc. The character was supposed to be part of a team called The Outsiders, not Batman and the Outsiders. This is pre that, and it was supposed to be sold through DC to show up in the Legion of Superheroes comic book, right? Got to go deep in the archives. And that's where the character was supposed to be. DC rejected the idea. Dave Cockrum had the character. Pretty much looked down with the 3 fingers, the 3 toes, okay? But and the tail, blue skin, everything. The only thing is he put him in a pair of trunks. At this point now, they're making a new X-Men team, and they wanted some influences. So he turned around, and instead of the character being far in the future in DC, came over to Marvel, put him present day, made him German. Oh, okay. Now we're off to a good start. Gave him the costume that he had, made him part of the circus. He's now being chased, as we see him the very first time in that issue. He's being chased through by villagers because they think he's a demon. He's trying to say, no, he's not. His name is Kirk Wagner. He's not a demon. He was born human, the human way. He just, unlike most mutants, I won't say all, most mutants, their powers kick in when they hit puberty. So usually around the age of 13. But Kirk was born exactly that way. Now, I don't know if he had his powers per se. He had the agility. He's able to climb up walls. And he was abandoned by his mom. We know the backstory that his mom was Mystique. She was in one of her human guises, and she was living in Germany, and she married a baron. This baron turned around, and he thought he was the father of this abomination in his eyes when the child was born. He didn't know Mystique was blue skin, yellow eyes, and for herself, she was a mutant. So she ran away. She was mad at Kirk for being born the way he was and ruining what she had as a good thing. So she kind of threw him off a cliff over a river. He survived, which shows you how durable even back then he was as an infant, newborn. He had a rough beginning, and she abandoned him. Like literally she took off running. Now, I know they've retconned this over the years, and that's fine. I was really liking the idea that they kept it that way, that either he was a biological father, and then the first retcon was Mystique, and I'll call her Mystique, had an affair with a demon who was in a human's guise. So his name is Azael. So Azael, red skin, has a tail himself, just like what Nightcrawler has, came up, put on a human disguise, and then, Mystique and him had an affair because the Baron was not physically appealing to her, in that point of her life. but she still got pregnant, told it was him. It's a whole Jerry, or sorry, more like Maury, who's the father kind of scenario right there with the X-Men. And Mystique has her own thing going on with kids throughout the Marvel universe. But we're focusing on Nightcrawler. So that's how Nightcrawler came to be. Now, Nightcrawler was found. He was raised by gypsies. He made his way into the circus and then used his unique look and agility, almost like the Flying Graysons, to carve out a living for himself where he was with people that were seen on the outside of the norm. I'm not saying they were mutants, but, you know, you had the carnies, you got the bearded lady, you got, you know, a person with two heads. You know, this is where he fit in because they accepted him for who he was because they saw his heart as a person. They didn't judge him on his demonic appearance. And that's how he came across. Now, this is very important to establish what his journey is throughout all this. As he's got older, he's being chased down. Xavier shows up, uses his mind control, freezes everybody in town, explains, hey, I need you to help save some others. And I can bring you to a place where you'll be accepted and use your powers for good. Sure, Nightcrawler's all there. And that's how we come across him. Now, Nightcrawler to me, luckily they write him a certain way. Because if they didn't, Nightcrawler could be one of the most feared people in the Marvel universe. I know we look at it and say, okay, well, he grew up, he's very flamboyant. He is a huge fan of Errol Flynn. He loves being a swashbuckler. Because he's so dexterous, he can use a sword in each hand and one in his tail at the same time, crawl up walls. And he saw himself as a pirate, Errol Flynn, swashbuckler, and he referred to himself a lot of ways. And he liked that sense of adventure. Now, he did have his faith, and he is Catholic. And as his journey goes on, he mentions it at the beginning, but it's not written so much so. But as time goes on, you see it coming out a little bit more. So now his faith, luckily, keeps a cap on how dangerous he can be. I'm not going for the retcon of Mystique and Destiny, you know, being the parents of Nightcrawler. I like that original tale of his dad being a baron, or his stepdad being a baron. His true father is a demon, and, you know, Nightcrawler is what he is. So clearly he's born to a mutant. He has the blue skin, and that comes across later on that he kind of starts putting two and two together, where they go up against the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, where it's the whole Days of Future Past storyline, and he runs into Mystique pretty much one of the first times. He's like, wait a minute. I've seen a lot of mutants, but not many with blue skin. And could it be, you know, she knows the truth, but she, of course, plays mind games with him at that time. So let's break down a couple of things. Nightcrawler's power. Clearly, you know, he's teamed up with Spider-Man. He's got that agility. He can wall crawl with the best of them. But there's other powers that they use a lot and they don't use a lot. The most famous one is teleportation. So every time he teleports, all you hear is a famous bamf. And you smell brimstone and, you know, fire. They say it's always a smell of brimstone and sulfur every time Nightcrawler teleports. So when Nightcrawler teleports, it's not a straight as we see it in a comic book as he's here 1 minute and he's there the next. No. Nightcrawler takes a journey. So he leaves our plane and very quickly he goes through one of the dimensions, let's say of limbo or hell, and then reappears someplace else. So it's not so much that he teleports as opposed to him going through a tunnel. This is why he has to know where he's going or see where he's going. And at the time, his max radius was 3 miles. So that means he leaves Earth, goes through a hell dimension, travels there really quick. You know, even he's unaware of it, how fast he's going through this dimension. And then he pops up at the other side where he needs to be. So if he can't visually picture where he has to be or teleport into, he can materialize within a wall, a floor, not properly. So it's all about sight or memory for Nightcrawler. So that should explain his powers 100%. And once again, they might have retconned it up to today, but I like this because this keeps in line with his dad being a demon. Now, what level of demon, we don't know, but because, and I'll get into this after. So that's part 1. 2, his skin. They call him, you know, the fuzzy elf. You know, that's what Wolverine refers to him as. But his skin's indigo, where if Nightcrawler is in a shadow, he literally disappears in a shadow. So agility, swashbuckling, swordplay, and he disappears in shadows at night. They don't really comment on this or use this aspect of Nightcrawler too often, which means he'd be great at infantry. Nightcrawler's a ninja. Okay. How is this really dangerous? So someone that can teleport, can't be seen at night or in dark, shadowy places, is great with hand-to-hand weapons. Okay. How is he not being more than what he is? Nightcrawler could be the ultimate assassin for the X-Men. Nightcrawler could have been one of the main people on X-Force when they were going to be proactive instead of reactive and being attacked. Luckily, for the villains that Nightcrawler runs into, he's got his faith. He is a Catholic. He does not believe in killing. Nothing wrong with punching someone in the face. You know, but at the same time, Nightcrawler has a philosophy of trying to teach others, spread love, and I don't mean that in a hippie way, but really educate people to keep this all alive and going, as opposed to just punch first and no questions after. Now, if you really wanted to get into a stealth squad kind of scenario, let's look at it. You got Wolverine. Nightcrawler could be up there even to pass him on certain things. Nightcrawler is also a team leader. He's led Excalibur, where it was like, you know, that team with Captain Britain, Megan, Rachel Summers, you know, Phoenix, along with Kitty Pryde. So Kitty Pryde was leading the team, and then Nightcrawler was leading the team. And then they took that for many adventures over many years. And I like that whole thing. It's just luckily that he's got this good demeanor. If his faith wasn't in there, and Nightcrawler's not just a person that has, oh, he's Catholic, okay, fine. He's worked his way up to studying the Bible and becoming a full-fledged priest. Here's where things can go deeper with Nightcrawler. And I mean this in a good way. If Marvel was to turn around and say, hey, what can we really do with this character to give him some more depth or insight or some interesting storylines? I know you had Ultimate X-Men where they made him captured. He was tortured. He was used as an assassin. And in one scene, Nightcrawler is driving a BMW on the Autobahn and they try to capture him. He teleports the whole car past the roadblock and shows up a couple of miles later while in the car driving. Like, that's how deadly is. And they write him smart that way. It can show you how interesting his powers could be. If we get into his bloodline, that's, as I said, with Cyclops needs a storyline. Once again, Nightcrawler can have a storyline because his adoptive sister is Rogue. She's a powerhouse because she drained those powers from, you know, Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers. Once again, his brother, or I should say one of his half-brother is Graydon Creed, who is the son of Sabretooth and Mystique, but he was born with no powers, but a full-out racist towards mutants. He's a mutant hater. Let's just call it as it is. That their storyline can go around with a lot of things. And what will actually make him test his faith? Will he hit that line to cross it? Will he try to redeem his brother? Because, you know, literally he's in the middle. Rogue's on one side with her philosophy, and Graydon is on the other side with his philosophy. How do you try to mend fences with that and still trying to figure that out with your mom? And then your biological mom. And then let's go back to his stepdad. Does that mean because his parents were married that he is entitled to whatever title maybe his stepdad had at the time? Because to the general public, that is his father. That's his father. His father was a baron. His father had a castle. That means his father has got a title. He's got money. He's got land. Is he entitled to that? And what does that bring? We've never really explored that. And let's look at the other side. His biological father. His biological father is a demon. Did he report to somebody or did people report to him? And can Nightcrawler somehow teleport from Earth into that demon realm without reappearing? So just use it as a gateway instead of a teleportation tunnel, as I like to say. And then what's his adventures there? What's his relationship there? If his mom had other kids, did his biological dad have other kids? And where are they? Because usually demons like to have a good time and that's what they do. So these are discussion topics that I want to get into with this character. And this is why I'm talking about Nightcrawler today. So one, they got to go back to some of Nightcrawler's roots and kind of work with that lineage whole thing, see how that could be. I think that'll be a lot of fun. They should get into Nightcrawler and his powers a little bit more and stop writing him as yes, he's a pacifist. He doesn't believe in killing, but once again, he'll still punch someone in the face. He still likes high adventure. He had a great time when he was in outer space on the Starjammer because to him, he was on a spaceship with a sword. He was living out every boy's dream for him. And I think that is what's overlooked. So I think, one, we need to get him back into outer space. I think we need him to kind of go and see about family lines and trying to work with forgiveness and everything like that, and see the next steps for this. So this is why I wanted to talk about Nightcrawler, and I keep in mind, I'm only scratching the surface. So let me know what you all think. Ken, I hope you like this video. And remember, like, subscribe, and share. And this whole world was started by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. And until then, bam.